Emma thought her marriage was unbreakable until one dinner party revealed the shocking truth her husband never wanted her to know. Nothing in her life will ever be the same again. Emma had always believed that love, once found, was unshakable. For years, she clung to that belief, building her marriage with Daniel brick by brick, memory by memory, sacrifice by sacrifice. Their friends admired them, their families adored them, and strangers who saw them together would often remark how perfect they seemed. But Emma knew now, staring at the ceiling of their bedroom while Daniel snored lightly beside her, that perfection was a fragile illusion, something that could shatter with a single text message. It had been 3 weeks since she first saw it, a notification on Daniel's phone while he was in the shower. She hadn't touched his phone, hadn't dared unlock it, but the preview had been enough. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was unforgettable. The sender's name had been hidden, just a phone number, but Emma's body had gone cold. For the next several days, she lived in silence, carrying on like nothing had changed. She smiled at work, laughed with friends, and played the role of the devoted wife, all while her insides twisted in knots. Daniel's excuses piled up: late nights at the office, urgent meetings, sudden trips that hadn't been mentioned before. And though Emma wanted to scream, to confront him, she bit her tongue. Why? Because she wasn't sure she wanted the truth. The truth would mean her life as she knew it was over. Still, curiosity and pain gnawed at her. So she began to watch. She noticed how Daniel flinched when she casually reached for his phone, how he would angle the screen away from her whenever he typed, how he had started wearing cologne even when he claimed he was just going to grab groceries. Small details, but they spoke louder than words. One Saturday afternoon, Emma finally broke. Daniel had gone out for what he called a quick meeting with a client. Emma waited 10 minutes after he left, then grabbed her coat and followed in her own car. Her hands shook on the steering wheel, her breath shallow as she trailed him at a distance. He didn't go to his office. He didn't even head toward the downtown where most of his clients lived. Instead, he drove across town to a quiet neighborhood, parked his car outside a modest-looking townhouse, and disappeared inside. Emma sat there in disbelief, her knuckles white against the steering wheel. Minutes ticked by, turning into an hour, then 2. Every moment felt like fire in her chest. When Daniel finally emerged, he wasn't alone. A woman, younger and strikingly beautiful, walked him to the door. Emma watched as Daniel leaned in, kissed her softly, intimately, tenderly, before walking back to his car. Emma couldn't breathe. She drove home in silence, her mind blank, her hands numb. When Daniel returned later that evening, smiling, carrying takeout, she almost laughed at the absurdity of it. He kissed her cheek like nothing had happened, like their marriage wasn't crumbling beneath her feet. That night, Emma lay awake again, listening to the steady rhythm of Daniel's breathing. She wanted to scream, to shake him, to demand answers, but she stayed quiet, because now she had a choice to make. Would she confront him and risk the destruction of everything she had built with him? Or would she play the game, gather her evidence, and decide later how to use it? Emma didn't know the answer yet, but she did know one thing. She wasn't going to let him break her without a fight. And so began the longest weeks of her life, where every smile was a lie, every kiss a betrayal, and every moment an act in a play she no longer wanted to be a part of. The days that followed felt like living in a glass house, where every crack threatened to shatter the whole structure. Emma walked through her routines like a ghost, her mind constantly circling back to that townhouse and the woman standing in the doorway. She could still see Daniel's hand on the woman's cheek, could still feel the sting of that kiss. She wanted to scream, but instead, she smiled. At breakfast, she asked Daniel about his meetings, listening carefully to the way his eyes darted away when he spoke. At night, she let him hold her, though every touch burned like ice. Her silence became her weapon, her mask. But silence has a weight, and Emma felt it pressing on her chest. She needed to tell someone, anyone, before she lost her mind. One evening, she invited her best friend Sarah over for wine. Sarah had known Emma since college, had been her maid of honor at the wedding, and knew her well enough to sense that something was wrong. "What's going on?" Sarah asked gently, after Emma poured her second glass without touching the first. Emma hesitated, then whispered, "I think Daniel is seeing someone." Sarah blanked, shocked. "What? No! Daniel adores you. Are you sure?" Emma told her everything. The late nights, the secrecy, the phone message, the townhouse. When she finished, Sarah was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "Emma, if it's true, you need to protect yourself. Emotionally, financially, everything. Don't let him blindside you." The words cut deep. Protect yourself. Emma hadn't even thought of that. Their lives were so entangled. Shared bank accounts, a mortgage, investments, a business partnership. If Daniel was really betraying her, then the betrayal was bigger than just the affair. It threatened her entire life. That night, Emma lay awake again, staring at the ceiling. She realized that she couldn't just be a passive observer anymore. If Daniel was hiding something, she needed proof. Hard, undeniable proof. So, she made a decision. The next morning, after Daniel left for work, Emma grabbed her laptop and started searching for private investigators in her city. She felt ridiculous, like a character in some movie, but this wasn't fiction. This was her life. Within an hour, she had scheduled a meeting with a man named Mark Rivers, a PI who specialized in marital cases. Meeting him felt surreal. Mark was calm, professional, and didn't flinch when Emma explained her suspicions. "You're not the first to sit in that chair," he said quietly, "and you won't be the last. The important thing is to know the truth, whatever it is." Emma handed over Daniel's schedule, photos, his car details, everything Mark needed. As she left his office, her heart pounded with both dread and relief. For the first time, she felt like she was taking control. Over the next week, Emma lived a double life. To Daniel, she was the same loving wife, cooking dinner, asking about his day, even laughing at his stories. But behind the scenes, she was anxiously awaiting updates from Mark. The call finally came on a Wednesday evening. Emma stepped into the garage, away from Daniel, to answer. "Emma," Mark's voice was steady, professional, "we've confirmed your suspicions. Daniel has been meeting a woman named Claire Jennings. She's 29, works in marketing. We have photos, videos, timestamps. There's no room for doubt." Emma's knees nearly gave out. She leaned against the cold wall of the garage, gripping her phone like a lifeline. Do you have proof of—" "Yes," Mark said gently. "They're romantically involved. I'm sorry." Emma thanked him, hung up, and stood there in the silence, her breath shallow, her chest aching. Proof. She had asked for it, and now she had it. When she went back inside, Daniel was sitting on the couch, watching TV, smiling as if nothing in the world was wrong. Emma stared at him, her mind racing. She could confront him right now, throw the evidence in his face, demand answers, scream, cry, let it all out. But she didn't. Instead, she smiled, sat down next to him, and rested her head on his shoulder. Because Emma wasn't ready to destroy him just yet. She wanted to know why. And until she did, the game would go on. Emma had the proof now, but proof didn't mean closure. Proof didn't make the nights any easier, nor the mornings less heavy. Instead, it gnawed at her every waking hour. She found herself staring at Daniel when he wasn't looking, studying his face, his expressions, the casual way he asked if she wanted coffee. She searched for guilt in the curve of his smile, for shame in the way he buttoned his shirt. But there was nothing. He was as practiced in his deception as she was in her silence. The weight of it all was unbearable, so Emma began keeping a journal. At night, when Daniel fell asleep, she would slip into the living room and write everything down. The text she remembered, the way Claire's name looked in the private investigator's report, the exact shade of lipstick she thought she saw faintly smeared on Daniel's collar one evening. She poured her rage, her grief, and her confusion onto paper because there was nowhere else for it to go. Her entries grew darker with each passing day. How can he hold me at night after being with her? Does he laugh with her the way he used to laugh with me? Was I blind this whole time, or did I stop being enough for him? One night, Sarah called again. Emma hesitated before answering, afraid her voice might betray how close she was to breaking. "Any news?" Sarah asked carefully. Emma swallowed hard. "Yes, it's her. I have proof." "Oh, Em," Sarah sighed, and the silence that followed was heavier than words. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," Emma admitted. "Part of me wants to scream, throw everything in his face, and walk away. Another part wants to
to understand. Why her? Why now? Was I not enough? Sarah's voice hardened. Don't do that to yourself. This isn't about you not being enough. It's about him making a choice, a selfish, cruel choice. Don't let him twist this into being your fault. Emma wiped her tears silently. She wanted to believe Sarah, but the doubt had already rooted itself deep inside her. The following weekend, Daniel suggested a spontaneous getaway. We haven't had time just for us lately, he said warmly, holding her hand across the table at breakfast. Let's escape. Just a couple of nights. You and me. Emma nearly choked on her coffee. The audacity of it! Was this guilt? A bribe? Or had Claire canceled on him, leaving her as the backup plan? Still, she forced a smile. That sounds wonderful. They went to a cabin by the lake, a place they had visited years ago during their honeymoon phase. The air smelled of pine and fresh rain, and the water shimmered under the sun. It should have been romantic, but Emma couldn't stop thinking about the townhouse, about Claire's arms wrapped around him, about the taste of betrayal lingering on his lips. On their second night, as they sat by the fire sipping wine, Daniel reached for her hand. I love you, Em, he whispered. His eyes glowed in the firelight, tender, sincere. For a moment, she almost believed him. Almost. She wanted to scream the truth at him, to watch his face crumble, but instead, she squeezed his hand back and whispered, I love you too. Inside, her heart was breaking. When they returned home, Emma knew she couldn't live in limbo. She needed answers. So one evening, while Daniel showered, she did what she had sworn she would never do. She unlocked his phone. It wasn't easy. His password had changed, but Emma had been observant. Birthdays, anniversaries, their dog's name. She tried them all until finally the screen unlocked. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through his messages. And there she was. Claire. Dozens of texts. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you again? I wish you could just leave her already. Emma's stomach twisted violently. Leave her? Claire wasn't just a fling. She wanted more. She wanted Daniel entirely. And judging by his replies, he was considering it. Soon. I just need to figure things out. She deserves better than me. I don't know how to end it. Be patient, please, I promise. Emma dropped the phone onto the bed, her hands shaking. End? Was he planning to leave her? The thought sliced through her chest like a blade. All this time, she had feared losing him, and now she saw he was already halfway gone. That night, she lay in bed beside him, silent tears streaming down her face. Daniel reached for her in his sleep, pulling her close, and Emma wondered if he was dreaming of her or of Claire. The next morning, she looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were red, her face pale, but there was a fire in her chest she hadn't felt before. If Daniel thought he could discard her so easily, he was wrong. She wasn't just going to be a silent victim. For the first time in weeks, Emma felt something sharper than despair. She felt rage, and rage demanded action.
Emma woke the next morning with a clarity she hadn't felt in weeks. Rage had burned away the fog of confusion, leaving only resolve. If Daniel was preparing to leave her, then she wouldn't just sit and wait for the axe to fall. She needed control over the situation, over her life, over the story that would define her future. Her first step was simple. She started documenting everything. Every suspicious late-night outing, every excuse, every message she dared to copy down from his phone. She even printed the photos and reports from Mark, the private investigator. She stored everything in a locked folder on her laptop and another copy on a flash drive she hid in the lining of her purse. It wasn't just about knowing anymore. It was about being prepared. Sarah called again that afternoon, and Emma finally confessed about checking the phone. She read aloud some of the messages. Sarah's sharp intake of breath was audible, even through the line. Oh my God, Emma, he's planning to leave you. Emma's voice was low, steady. Maybe, but not before I decide how this ends. Sarah hesitated. What do you mean? I mean, Emma said, if he thinks he can betray me and walk away clean, he's wrong. He'll regret underestimating me. That night, Emma studied Daniel more carefully than ever. He moved through the house with ease, humming softly as he chopped vegetables for dinner. He poured her wine, kissed her temple, and smiled like a man at peace. And the more normal he acted, the more surreal it all felt. How was your day? He asked casually. Emma smiled, swirling her wine. Productive. Yours? Busy. but good," he said. He didn't flinch, didn't show a crack. Emma nearly laughed. Busy. With Claire, no doubt. Over the next few days, she began crafting her plan. She didn't want an ugly, chaotic confrontation. No, she wanted precision. She wanted Daniel cornered, exposed, unable to twist the truth. So she set the stage. On Friday evening, she suggested a dinner at home, just the two of them. "We never really get to slow down anymore. Let's just enjoy ourselves," she said sweetly. Daniel seemed pleased. "I'd love that." She cooked his favorite meal, steak, roasted potatoes, and red wine. She lit candles, dimmed the lights, and set the table like she used to in their early years. Daniel walked in, smiling, clearly touched by the effort. "This is amazing, Em," he said warmly, pulling her into his arms. She kissed him, lingering longer than she expected, searching his face for guilt. But he kissed her back easily, without hesitation. As they ate, Emma forced herself to laugh at his jokes, to ask about his projects, to act like nothing was wrong. And all the while, her phone rested in her lap, recording the conversation. She wanted every word, every tone, every possible crack she could use later if needed. Halfway through dinner, she leaned forward, her voice soft. "Daniel, are you happy?" He looked surprised, but smiled. "Of course. Why?" "Just wondering," she said, sipping her wine. "We've been together so long. I just want to make sure I'm giving you what you need." His eyes softened. "You're perfect, Em. I wouldn't change a thing." Perfect. The words sliced her open. Perfect. While he texted another woman promises of leaving her. Emma smiled, but inside she was screaming. Later that night, after he fell asleep, she slipped quietly out of bed and opened his phone again. More messages from Claire. "Miss you already. When can I see you? I don't care how long it takes, just don't lie to me. You said soon. Do you mean it?" Daniel's replies made Emma's blood boil. "Soon, I promise. I'll make it right. She doesn't suspect a thing." He had no idea. She closed the phone, slid it back into place, and stood over him in the dark. His face was peaceful in sleep, his chest rising and falling with steady breaths. She wondered how many times he had lain beside her after leaving Claire's bed, how many nights he had wrapped his arms around her while thinking of someone else. Her rage was a living thing now, pulsing through her veins. But rage alone wasn't enough. She needed strategy. The next day, Emma scheduled another meeting with Mark, the PI. She handed him the new messages, the recordings, everything. "What do you want to do with this?" Mark asked carefully. Emma's voice was steady. "I want to be ready for divorce, if it comes to that, and I want to make sure he doesn't get away with lying to me, to everyone." Mark nodded. "You're preparing well, but remember, this isn't just about catching him, it's about protecting yourself. Think about your future." Emma left his office with her mind buzzing. Her future. She wasn't sure what that looked like anymore. But one thing was certain. Daniel wouldn't get to write the ending of their story. She would. That evening, as Daniel sat on the couch scrolling through his phone, Emma approached him. "I was thinking, maybe we should invite Sarah and a few others over for dinner next weekend. It's been a while since we hosted." Daniel looked up, smiling. "That's a great idea. Let's do it." Emma smiled back, but her heart pounded, because in her mind, the dinner wasn't just a social gathering. It was the stage for the confrontation she was already crafting. She would expose him, not in private, not quietly, but in front of the people who thought they were the perfect couple. And when the truth came crashing down, Daniel would have nowhere to hide. The week leading up to the dinner felt like a performance rehearsal. Emma moved through her days with precision, making lists, setting menus, checking details. Daniel thought she was simply excited about hosting again, but beneath her calm exterior, she was orchestrating his downfall. She chose the guest list carefully. Sarah, of course, along with two other close friends, Anna and Michael, people who had known them for years. She wanted witnesses, people who would see the cracks, who would hear the truth from Daniel's own lips. Emma prepared the house with care, polishing the silverware, arranging flowers, dimming the lights just enough to cast a warm glow. She wore a simple black dress, elegant and understated, the kind of dress Daniel had always loved. When guests arrived, laughter filled the rooms, wine flowed, and conversation bubbled easily. Daniel was in his element, charming as ever, pouring drinks, telling stories, flashing the smile that had once made Emma fall in love with him. To anyone else, he looked like the perfect husband. To Emma, he looked like a liar in a mask. Halfway through the evening, Sarah caught Emma's eye across the room. She raised an eyebrow. a silent question. Is it happening tonight? Emma gave a subtle nod. Dinner was served, wine glasses clinked, and for a while Emma let herself sink into the rhythm of normalcy. But the moment had to come. As plates were cleared, Emma stood, her heart pounding. She held her glass of wine and smiled at the table. I'm so glad we're all here tonight. It's been too long since we've done this. And I think it's important, sometimes, to remind ourselves what honesty and trust really mean in a marriage. The room quieted slightly, guests glancing between Emma and Daniel. Daniel smiled uncertainly, lifting his glass. Absolutely, he said, trying to match her tone. Emma set down her glass. Her hands were steady, though her pulse raced. Daniel, do you want to tell our friends what honesty means to you? Confusion flickered across his face. What do you mean? Emma's smile didn't waver. I mean, perhaps you could tell them about Claire. The name dropped like a stone into still water. The silence that followed was suffocating. Daniel froze, color draining from his face. What are you talking about? Emma pulled her phone from her table and laid it on the table. I've read the messages, Daniel. I know about the late nights, the promises, the lies. She doesn't suspect a thing. Isn't that what you told her? Gasps rippled around the table. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. Anna and Michael exchanged wide-eyed glances. Daniel's mask shattered. He stammered, his hands trembling. Emma, this isn't the time. No, Emma cut him off. This is exactly the time. Because for years, I've been the faithful wife, the supportive partner, and you thought you could betray me in secret. But I won't let you humiliate me in the dark. If you're going to betray me, then everyone will know. Daniel's voice cracked. Emma, please, let's talk about this privately. Privately? Like the way you whispered promises to her behind my back? No, Daniel, you don't get privacy anymore. The room was heavy with shock, the air thick with tension. Sarah finally spoke, her voice shaking. Emma, do you want us to leave? Emma shook her head. No, stay. You should all see who he really is. Daniel buried his face in his hands. It's not what you think. I was confused. I never meant to hurt you. Emma leaned forward, her voice cold as steel. Confused? You promised her you'd leave me. You told her I was clueless. And you know what, Daniel? For a while, I was. But not anymore. Tears pricked his eyes. Emma, I made a mistake. I love you. I don't want to lose you. The room held its breath. Emma's voice dropped to a whisper. You already lost me the moment you thought I was too blind to see. For a long moment, no one moved. Daniel sat broken, his perfect facade crumbling in front of their friends. Emma felt a strange calm settle over her. The power was hers now. She straightened, smoothing her dress. Dinner is over. Thank you all for coming. The guests rose slowly, awkwardly, unsure what to say. Sarah lingered, giving Emma a fierce solidarity before leaving. Anna and Michael whispered their goodbyes, eyes wide with shock. When the door closed behind them, Emma turned back to Daniel. He sat slumped at the table, staring at the untouched dessert. You ruined everything, he whispered. Emma tilted her head. No, Daniel, you did that. The moment you thought betrayal could stay hidden. He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Please, don't leave me. Emma looked at him one last time, her heart heavy but resolute. You already left me. You just didn't have the courage to say it. With that, she walked upstairs, leaving him alone in the silence of his disgrace. Epilogue. 2 months later, Emma signed the divorce papers with a steady hand. The scandal of that dinner had spread quietly through their circle, and Daniel's perfect reputation had never recovered. Claire disappeared from the picture, leaving him isolated and bitter. Emma, meanwhile, rebuilt her life piece by piece. Therapy, long walks, late-night calls with Sarah all helped her find herself again. And though the betrayal had cut deep, she felt stronger than she had in years. Because she had faced the truth, she had taken control, and she had chosen her own ending. As she walked out of the lawyer's office into the crisp autumn air, she felt the weight lift from her shoulders. Daniel's whispers of betrayal no longer haunted her. Her story was hers again.